Chosen one, stop what you're doing and listen closely. Heaven is still. Time is pausing around you. Why? Because you finally did what most never have the courage to do. You obeyed. Not when it was easy, not when everyone was cheering, but when it hurt, when it made no earthly sense. And when everything inside you wanted to walk away, you still said yes. And because of that, yes, something has shifted in the atmosphere. Tonight is not like any other night. This moment is sealed in eternity. The angels are watching. Heaven smiled. And your obedience quiet. Costly. Unseen has echoed into the courts of the Most High. You didn't need applause. You didn't post about it. But God saw. He saw it all. You turned away from what the flesh craved. You silenced the voice of fear. You said no to the counterfeit and yes to the call. And though no one else recognized the weight of that decision, heaven did. God did. That one step of surrender triggered a divine review of your life. Tonight, the Father is deciding what comes next, not based on your resume, but your obedience. This was not a coincidence. This was a crossroads. The world will never understand the pain you had to walk through to get here, but the realm of the Spirit does. You didn't just obey a whisper. You aligned with a timeline of heaven. The enemy hoped you would break. He thought delay would discourage you. He assumed rejection would silence you. But you kept walking. You kept trusting. And now, just like that, the page is turning. The script is being rewritten. The old chapter is closing without needing applause or explanation, because what heaven is writing next will speak louder than anything you've ever lost. You are not like the rest. You were never meant to blend in. You are the disruption in your bloodline. You are the breaker of curses. You are the one the enemy feared would rise. And tonight, you did. We read in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7, verse 23, "Obey me, and I will be your God." You didn't obey out of fear. You obeyed because you love him. And now, because of that obedience, the soil beneath your feet is changing. Doors that were locked are clicking open. Delays are dissolving. What should have taken 10 years, God will now accomplish in one. Not because you earned it, but because you surrendered when it counted most. This is what obedience does. It pulls the attention of heaven toward your life like a magnet. You've been fighting silent battles, crying silent tears, and yet you kept walking. You've walked through fire and refused to bow. You've walked through wilderness and still refused to doubt. Below the chosen one. This was the moment you crossed over. Tonight, heaven is in session concerning your future. Heaven is reviewing your yes. You did not miss your window. You did not waste your season. The wait has been long, but the decision is near. And when God moves this time, it will not be small. This yes shifted your lineage. This yes destroyed patterns of delay. This yes cut off what hell had planned for you 5 years from now. Because of this obedience, you are no longer standing in the same spiritual dimension you were in yesterday. You've crossed into a new realm. So stand tall. Chosen one. Don't look back. Don't second guess. What you obeyed to do in secret, God is about to honor in the open. Every no you whispered behind closed doors has become a sound in the halls of heaven. And tonight is when God responds. Comment 444 below as a prophetic sign that you have obeyed and stepped into alignment. Like this message, if it stirred your spirit, share it so someone else can obey. And subscribe now, because this is only the beginning of what God will speak next. He smiled because you obeyed. Now watch what he decides next. And hear this clearly. Your obedience is not just opening doors, it's shifting destinies. There are people tied to your yes. There are generations that will know freedom because you chose to obey. The ripples of what you did tonight will stretch further than you can imagine. This is bigger than a blessing. This is legacy. This is divine alignment. You've stepped into a flow where favor will find you faster, and grace will surround you deeper. So don't shrink. Don't question. This is your confirmation. Heaven smiled. The verdict is near. Stay ready. He is about to move suddenly. You didn't just obey. You surrendered. And that surrender cost you more than words could explain. They saw you walk away, but they never saw what it did to you on the inside. They don't know how hard it was to lay it down. They didn't feel the weight you carried in silence, or the sting of letting go when your heart was still attached. But God did. He counted every tear you held back. He marked every battle you didn't explain. He watched the war within you. And still, you chose him. Still you said, "Yes, Lord, chosen one." Obedience is never cheap. It's not romantic. It rarely makes sense. It doesn't always come with peace at first. It comes with fire. And that fire purifies. That fire isolates. That fire reveals what's real and what never belonged. The cost of obedience is not measured in things. It's measured in what you had to die to, what you had to walk away from while still bleeding, what you had to forgive without getting closure, what you had to release without knowing what was next. God didn't overlook it. You didn't overreact. You didn't walk away from too little. You walked away from what was sent to destroy you slowly. Your spirit knew before your mind could catch up. The spirit whispered, "Let it go," even as your heart screamed, "But what if?" But you did it anyway. You obeyed while afraid. And that's not weakness, that's faith. That's maturity. That's what separates the chosen from the convenient. You didn't wait until it made sense. You obeyed in the dark. And heaven took note. God knows the secret battles, the ones you fought in your thoughts when no one was watching. The ones where you almost chose comfort, where you almost reached back out, where you almost compromised just to feel normal again. But instead, you chose obedience. We read in the book of Isaiah, chapter 50, verse 5, "The sovereign Lord has opened my ears. I have not been rebellious. I have not turned away." In that decision, you buried a version of yourself that was never meant to live. The you that needed validation, the you that feared being misunderstood, the you that tried to please everyone except heaven, chosen one. Obedience broke something off of you. It didn't just change your direction, it changed your nature. What died in that obedience was your need to control. What rose up was your trust in a sovereign God. And now, even if it still hurts, you are not the same. That act of surrender upgraded your spiritual identity. You are now unshakable in a way you weren't before. But let's be honest, obedience often brings silence. After the act, there's usually a stillness, a space where it feels like nothing is happening. No confirmation, no sign, just you and silence. And the echo of your sacrifice, But don't mistake heaven's silence for absence. The silence is where God starts building. He rarely speaks when he's moving the most. The silence is sacred. It means he's working. Even Jesus, after being baptized and affirmed, was led into the wilderness by the Spirit, not by Satan, not by mistake, but by God. Why? Because obedience always leads to testing before promotion. And you, chosen one, have just entered that divine pattern. Your obedience has led you here not to be abandoned, but to be refined. And yes, it's lonely. Yes, it's quiet. But this is the space where your oil is produced. This is the space where you learn how to trust him with nothing in your hands but a word. This is where the old voices fade, and his voice becomes everything. And when you come out of this, you will not be who you were. What makes this obedience different is that it wasn't forced. You weren't cornered. You chose it. That's what made heaven smile. You had the option to go back. You had the opportunity to rebel. You could have played it safe, but you didn't. You gave up what you couldn't keep to receive what cannot be taken from you. God's pleasure. The cost was real. The pain is still raw. But the reward of obedience is never temporary. It's not always instant, but it is always eternal. That yes, you gave. That surrender you whispered. That sacrifice you made. It's speaking in realms beyond your awareness. It has now become your signature in the spirit realm. This one obeys. And because of that, everything has changed. Chosen one. Do you realize what your obedience just did? Hell is shaking. The moment you said yes, truly. From the depth of your being, you pierced through something ancient. You didn't just defy temptation. You disrupted demonic systems. You broke centuries of patterns. You shattered soul ties that were embedded in generations before you were born. That obedience wasn't just personal. It was prophetic. It sent shockwaves into the very structure of darkness that had claimed legal right to your life and your bloodline. That's why it felt so hard to obey. That's why the warfare intensified when you tried to pull away. That's why confusion tried to wrap itself around your mind. It wasn't about the situation, it was about what would shift in the unseen realm if you said yes. And now that you have, all of hell has taken notice. You didn't just walk away from compromise. You walked into kingdom authority. Demons no longer see you the same. You are marked now. You carry the sound of surrender, and the enemy can't counterfeit that sound. You carry the authority of one who did it afraid, who walked away without applause, who obeyed in silence. And now, even the darkness knows you're not who you used to be. There's a reason certain attacks stopped the moment you let go. That wasn't a coincidence. That was eviction. Hell lost access. That last stronghold, whether it was addiction, obsession, idolatry, resentment, it fell. Not because you shouted, not because you fought in your flesh, but because you obeyed. This is spiritual warfare in its highest form, radical, costly obedience. You didn't argue with God. You didn't negotiate. You just bowed. And in bowing, you rose higher than you've ever been. The realm of darkness hates obedience because it unlocks everything hell tried to delay. Your obedience unties angelic hands. It opens portals of timing. It breaks legal rights the enemy has used against you in the courtroom of heaven. That yes spoke louder than any warfare prayer you've ever prayed. That's why the pressure was so personal. The warfare didn't come for your stuff, it came for your surrender. The enemy doesn't attack what's already his. He attacks what threatens his grip. And you, chosen one, are a threat. Not because of your voice, but because of your submission. This is what Satan fears most. A submitted believer, not someone who performs miracles, not someone who shouts on stage, but someone who dies daily, someone who lets God close the doors that feel good but lead to death, someone who says, I want your will more than I want my comfort. Your yes burned contracts. Your surrender shut doors that demons had been using as entry points. That relationship you released, that cycle you ended, that habit you denied, that was a blow to the structure of darkness itself. That wasn't small. That was strategic. So if you felt exhausted, if you felt the backlash, understand this. Your obedience pulled the trigger in a spiritual war. And the enemy is now reacting to the authority you just claimed. But here is your reassurance. The enemy can't touch what God has sealed. You may feel the pressure, but you will not be broken. You may feel the shaking, but you are still standing. You are untouchable, not because you are perfect, but because you are yielded. And heaven covers the yielded. Do not fear the retaliation. Fear is the language of hell. And you no longer speak that dialect. Speak faith. Stand firm. And remind yourself, your obedience wasn't in vain. It was the weapon. We see this truth in the second letter to the Corinthians. Chapter 10, verse 6. And we will be ready to punish every act of disobedience. Once your obedience is complete, that verse isn't just instruction, it's revelation. Obedience completes the breach. Obedience finishes what prayer starts. Obedience is what activates divine retaliation against the forces that have stalked your soul for years. You've done what most wouldn't. You obeyed, even when it tore you apart. And now the shaking you feel isn't punishment, it's purification. It's the collapse of what couldn't follow you into the next season. Let it fall. You're still standing. Now, chosen one, seal this moment by declaring it in the atmosphere. Comment, obedience one. End it, write it below. Not just as a response, but as a decree, as a testimony, as a shout into the spiritual realm that you know what just happened. Your yes broke hell's rhythm. Your obedience just changed everything. When you type those two words, you're not just commenting, you're agreeing with heaven. You're declaring that surrender was worth it. You're telling hell it lost. You're confirming that the battle is over, not because you fought harder, but because you finally obeyed. This is your prophetic signature. Obedience has the final word. You didn't just obey and cause hell to tremble, you shifted dimensions. This may sound too big to grasp right now, especially because your surroundings haven't caught up yet. The room still looks the same. The people around you haven't changed. Your bank account might still say 0, but in the spirit realm, everything is different. You have crossed over, and crossing over never feels like glory. At first it feels like grief. It feels like isolation. It feels like the world going silent so heaven can start speaking. Your obedience didn't just close one chapter. It transitioned you into an entirely new dimension of purpose. It relocated your spirit from survival to authority. You are no longer in the waiting room. You are now in the war room. You've been handed new orders, heavenly coordinates. And even if you haven't heard them yet, your obedience already placed you on the map of divine movement. That's why some things around you feel disconnected or disjointed right now. You're not in the same frequency as before. The conversations that once made sense now feel empty. The distractions that used to lure you in no longer satisfy. You've outgrown where you were without even realizing it. Because obedience always accelerates growth. You didn't climb the mountain, you were elevated by obedience. Chosen one. There is no going back. You've crossed a spiritual border. You may still be wearing the same clothes, living in the same house, scrolling the same screen, but spiritually, your landscape has changed. You are standing in a different atmosphere, and while your soul may be trying to catch up, your spirit is already ahead. There's something sacred that happens when a person leaves behind what was comfortable to step into the unknown just because God said so. That moment becomes a portal. That yes becomes a bridge into divine flow. And that's exactly what happened to you. You obeyed, and heaven relocated you. Spiritually, you are now walking in territory that was once blocked, once delayed, once unreachable. But obedience broke the lock. Now the land is opening. There's a principle in the kingdom that few ever experience firsthand because it's only accessed through complete surrender. That principle is movement. Not just physical movement, but spiritual transference. The moment God sees true surrender, He doesn't just send blessings, He sends acceleration, divine momentum. Shifts that would have taken 10 years in the natural begin to happen in weeks. Not because you earned it, but because you aligned. We find this truth written in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 36, verse 27. I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. This is what has happened to you. The slowness you once felt has broken. The fog that once clouded your mind is lifting. You're not losing your mind. You're leaving behind an old mindset. And because you obeyed, heaven is authorizing new connections, new opportunities, and new levels of revelation that were previously withheld, not as a reward, but as a responsibility. You are being entrusted now, entrusted with more sight, more weight, more influence. Don't downplay it. Don't assume this is emotional hype. What you did has consequences in the spirit. God always responds to radical obedience with radical clarity. That's why you'll start to notice things others can't. You'll start discerning shifts others ignore. You'll begin to walk differently, think differently, and speak differently, not because you're trying to change, but because you already have. But hear this clearly, with this dimension comes demand. God didn't bring you here just to admire the view. This elevation is an assignment. This atmosphere requires discipline. You can't carry what's next with yesterday's habits. You can't walk in this place and still crave the crumbs of compromise. This realm demands consistency, purity, and intimacy with the Father like never before. You didn't just cross over to enjoy favor, you crossed over to enforce it. You are now a territory holder in the Spirit. What you touch carries the signature of heaven. When you speak, there will be weight. When you move, there will be ripple effects. But that authority only flows as long as you stay in alignment. And this is where the enemy tries to creep back in, not with open attacks, but with subtle distractions. In this dimension, spiritual laziness becomes dangerous. One compromise can pull you back into places you fought so hard to escape. That's why you must protect what obedience gave you. Guard it, nurture it, Fight for it daily. You are not who you were a week ago. You've been shifted, spiritually relocated. What used to overpower you now fears your presence. What used to delay you now has no say. Don't question it. Don't wait for earthly confirmation to believe the spiritual truth. You've stepped into another realm, and once you've tasted the authority of obedience, going back to convenience becomes impossible. Chosen one, something sacred is happening tonight. Because you obeyed. Heaven is rewriting your story not with ink, but with glory. What was meant to delay you is now being redefined. The script of your life is being edited by the author himself, not by chance, not by emotion, but by divine instruction. Your yes has opened the scroll. There is a moment in every chosen life when the heavens don't just observe, they respond. This is that moment. This is where God takes your obedience and folds it into the future He already designed for you. What seemed broken will now become the very blueprint of your breakthrough. What you thought was a mistake is being merged into your mission. Every scar is now a seal. Every tear has become divine ink. You may not see it yet, but tonight, heaven is writing in real time. There are divine edits happening in the unseen. God is redlining the lies you once believed. He is crossing out the shame others put on you. He is deleting the detours you thought disqualified you. You are not living a second-hand story. You are walking through divine revision, crafted by the one who knew every chapter before your first breath. Chosen one. You didn't miss your destiny, you just outgrew the old version of it. The obedience you gave didn't just prove your faithfulness, it invited God's intervention. And when God intervenes, He doesn't repair, He rewrites. That means timelines are being shifted, appointments are being accelerated. The years the locusts ate are being restored, not in theory, but in manifestation. God is not just restoring time, He's renewing purpose. And it all started with your yes. That yes changed your posture. That yes broke agreements with delay. That yes has now placed your name on the lips of angels assigned to your case. What was delayed is now being recalculated. What was withheld is being unlocked. And what was stolen is being tracked down by justice. Divine justice. You're no longer behind. You're no longer wandering. You are exactly where you need to be because obedience reroutes everything. Heaven is not scrambling to fix what you broke. Heaven is rejoicing over what you surrendered. There's a passage written in the book of Job, chapter 22, verse 28. You will also decree a thing, and it will be established for you, so light will shine on your ways. This is your moment to decree, not from emotion, but from position. You are standing in a new authority, born from obedience. The light is now shifting. The road is becoming visible, and the path that once looked closed is opening under your feet as you walk. Chosen one, don't be surprised when divine connections begin to locate you. People who carry your next instruction, mentors who confirm what God whispered, opportunities that align perfectly with the burdens in your spirit. That's not luck. That's alignment. That's what happens when you say yes to the right thing, even when everything else says no. And listen closely. Some of the silence you've experienced wasn't punishment, it was set up. God wasn't ignoring you. He was arranging the pages. Heaven doesn't rush when rewriting legacy. God is crafting something out of your obedience that generations after you will benefit from. Your children's children will live in the freedom you just activated. This is bigger than you. So when it still feels slow, remember this: editors don't show their drafts to everyone. But when the final story is released, no one can deny its power, and yours is about to unfold. If this word is confirming what your spirit already sensed, don't hold it in. Someone else needs this. You might be the lifeline they didn't know they were scrolling for. Like this message to push it higher into the algorithm, not for ego, but for impact. Share it with someone whose breakthrough is one yes away. Subscribe so that the flow of prophetic truth never misses you again. And if this word was more than inspiration, if it felt like divine strategy, then take a bold step. Sow into the word, not out of pressure, but out of partnership. When you sow into what's feeding your spirit, you accelerate what heaven is already writing. It's not about the amount, it's about the agreement. Your seed becomes a signature. Lord, I believe this word is mine. Because truthfully, you've already paid a price in obedience. What you give now is simply alignment, an offering that matches the weight of your surrender. Your story is no longer what it used to be. The pen is in God's hand, and the next sentence will silence your enemies. Stay in position. The next paragraph will be glorious. Chosen one. Something sacred was opened in heaven when you said yes. It wasn't just a moment, it was a marking. A scroll with your name on it has been taken off the shelf. A record not written by man, but preserved by God, has been unsealed. Not because you performed, not because you were perfect, but because you obeyed. And tonight, the eyes of heaven are on what's written next. There are seasons where nothing seems to move, not because God has forgotten, but because heaven is waiting for one act of obedience before unlocking the next set of instructions. And you did it. You moved. You let go. You released. You followed, even while afraid. And now, the record has shifted. You may not feel it yet, but the courtroom of heaven has registered your name in a new dimension. Your file has been moved from pending to active. What was once being reviewed is now being acted on. What was once on hold is now on heaven's calendar. And it all began the moment your obedience reached maturity. God does not forget obedience. He documents it. Scripture speaks in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 16. A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. Do you realize what that means? Every time you chose honor over offense, every time you chose to pray instead of gossip, every time you gave up something the world said you deserved, heaven wrote it down. Not a single decision of obedience has been lost. Not one act of surrender went unnoticed. You've been building a legacy in the spirit. And now, the record is being acknowledged. This is more than a reward. This is heaven's formal response. You've entered a spiritual season where records become rulings, where prayers turn into verdicts, where your yes has legal weight in the courts of the kingdom, and as heaven opens the scroll with your name on it, instructions are being written in real-time directives, assignments, breakthroughs, protections, even people. That's why it feels like your atmosphere is changing. You're not just walking into a new phase, you're walking under a new ruling. Favor that was blocked is now being released. Timing that seemed off is now aligning. Your steps are becoming ordered with precision because the scroll has spoken. And when heaven speaks, nothing on earth can silence it. You are not drifting anymore. You are not wandering through delay or confusion. The fog is lifting. The weight is shifting. This is not emotional relief, it's spiritual order. You've stepped into a divine structure where purpose meets instruction, and destiny meets timing. And none of it came from striving. It came from surrender. You have activated a season where angelic activity increases, not randomly, but by design, because when God unseals a scroll, He also dispatches what's needed to fulfill it. You'll begin to notice divine reinforcements showing up in ways you didn't ask for, protection you didn't pray for, provision you didn't chase, because the scroll speaks on your behalf. You're not walking with guesswork anymore. You're walking with authorization. That's why the warfare shifted. 2. It's not just opposition, it's resistance against what's being released. But here's what hell can't do. Hell can't access the scroll. It can't rewrite what's already sealed in heaven. The only thing it can try is distraction. That's why your focus is under fire. That's why your rest feels disrupted. Because something eternal has been activated, and the enemy can't stop it. Only hope you'll get weary and step back. But not you. Not now. You've come too far to retreat from what heaven is writing in your name. So stay alert. Stay postured. Stay humble. God is revealing blueprints that require precision. You can't afford to move too fast or too loose. Divine details are being whispered. Divine strategies are being laid out. Don't rush. Don't compare. What He's showing you now is holy. Chosen one. What you carry has been transferred from vision to record, from idea to assignment, from intercession to instruction. The scroll has been opened. The ruling is in motion. And now, seal your alignment in the Spirit with a prophetic number. Comment 1212. This is not just a number, it's an agreement. It's a response to what's already been written. 12 represent divine gouvernement. Double it. And you're declaring, Lord, establish your will in every corner of my life. It is your echo in the Spirit. I agree with the scroll. I yield to what's written. I accept what you've planned, even before I see it. Heaven is recording more than your actions. It's recording your alignment. And tonight, you are aligned. Chosen one. Something powerful happened when you obeyed. Hell lost jurisdiction. You may not have realized it in the moment. You may have still felt surrounded by fear, doubt, and familiar temptation. But in the unseen realm, your obedience revoked access. The enemy had papers on you, open doors, legal grounds, patterns he thought he could count on, cycles he believed you would repeat. But your surrender disrupted it all. When you obeyed, you didn't just say yes to God, you said no to bondage. You said no to the lay, not to deception, not to destruction. You broke an agreement hell was depending on. You tore up a spiritual contract. And now, the realm of darkness has been forced to retreat. You may still feel the aftershocks. The temptation might still knock. But know this, the power behind it has been severed. You're not fighting from the same position anymore. You're not resisting as a prisoner. You're standing as one who's been freed. And freedom doesn't always feel like fire from heaven. Sometimes it feels like silence where there used to be noise. Stillness where there used to be torment. That's what you're beginning to sense. The old pull is losing power. The old chains no longer fit. And even if you still hear their rattling, they no longer own you. There are spiritual laws in place, and one of them is this: Satan only operates where access is granted. His power is not unlimited, it's conditional. And the moment you obeyed God, the conditions changed. The permission was revoked. The trap was dismantled. The hold was cancelled. You've got to understand, hell doesn't fear talent, gifting, or even declarations shouted into the air. Hell fears obedience. Why? Because obedience closes doors, shouting can't. Obedience silences voices that fasting alone can't reach. Obedience rewrites what was legally written against you. You didn't just break a cycle, you cancelled its right to return. This is why the enemy tried so hard to distract you. He sent confusion, loneliness, even false blessings wrapped in flattery. Anything to get you to stay connected to what he could use against you. But now, because you chose God's will over temporary comfort, the enemy no longer has a foothold. He has lost his legal claim. In the spirit, it's not about emotion, it's about position. And you, chosen one, have shifted your position. Where once there was accusation, now there is silence. Where once there was torment, now there is peace. You didn't just resist evil, you replaced its authority. You invited the presence of God into the places where darkness once operated freely. And when light enters, darkness cannot stay. It doesn't negotiate. It flees. The Word of God affirms this unshakable reality in the book of James, chapter 4, verse 7. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Notice the order. It doesn't say, fight first. It says, submit first. That's what you've done. That's why hell is fleeing. Not because you shouted it down, but because you bowed low in surrender. Because you submitted your will, your timeline, your desires. And now, you're walking in protection you didn't even know you needed. This is the hidden power of true obedience. It shifts spiritual territory without needing to be seen. You may not have told anyone what you let go of. You may not have posted what you walked away from, but in the spirit, your surrender was loud. It was recorded, and it triggered a reaction in the camp of the enemy. That's why it feels like things are suddenly quiet. Why certain thoughts don't hit the same. Why certain people suddenly disappeared. You didn't just clean house emotionally, you shifted realms legally. The enemy lost jurisdiction. And now, you must protect what God has reclaimed. Because just as access was revoked, the enemy will try to find loopholes. He will try to lure you back into old conversations, old compromises, old comforts, anything that will let him re-establish the legal rights he lost. Don't fall for it. Don't flirt with what you fought to escape. Don't revisit what you were delivered from. Guard your surrender like treasure. Protect your new position like a soldier, not out of fear, but out of honor. You didn't get here by accident. You got here by obedience. And that obedience has now built a wall between you and what once held you captive. Live like someone who has been released. Speak like someone whose chains are broken. Think like someone whose name is now cleared in the records of heaven. Because you are. Hell lost jurisdiction, and you didn't just survive the battle. You won. Chosen one. There is a kind of obedience that nobody sees but heaven celebrates. You didn't post about it. You didn't make a speech. You didn't look for recognition, but you still did what was right in the eyes of God. And because of that, a reward has been scheduled in the spirit. Not a reward made of gold or applause, but one that carries the weight of heaven's approval. There are sacrifices that happen in silence, behind closed doors, in the quiet places where no one claps and no one cheers. These are the places where legacy is forged, where oil is formed, where heaven leans close. And you've been living in that place, haven't you? Doing the right thing when it hurt, saying no to what you wanted because your spirit knew better, letting go of comfort for the sake of alignment. You didn't realize it, but every act of surrender in secret was being recorded in heaven's archive. Your unseen yes became the loudest sound in the courts of glory. And while the world celebrates performance, heaven rewards purity. While the world rewards noise, heaven honors hidden obedience. You've been asking, does it matter that I did the right thing when no one saw it? Yes, it matters more than you know. Because the kind of obedience that costs you the most always bears the most fruit. God is not mocked. He is not unjust. He does not forget the labor of the faithful, the quiet ones, the consistent ones, the ones who didn't demand attention but demanded righteousness from themselves. That's you. And that's why your reward is not just coming, it's already in motion. There's a divine law at work now. When obedience happens in secret, honor is given in public, not to puff you up, but to validate God's work in you. You're not being elevated to be seen, you're being lifted so God's character can be seen through you. We see this divine pattern in the words of Jesus, recorded in the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 4. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. That verse is not symbolic. It is literal. You've lived it. You've walked it out. And now, the reward is not just spiritual, it's tangible. Opportunities you didn't apply for, favor you didn't chase, peace you didn't manufacture. These things are beginning to unfold, not because you forced them, but because you obeyed when it hurt to do so. You've proven that you can be trusted in the quiet place. Now God is preparing to place more in your hands, not to exalt your name, but to amplify His. Because what you steward in private determines what He can release in public, and you've stewarded it well. Don't despise the seasons where no one noticed. Don't regret the moments where it felt like obedience cost you everything. Those were the very seasons heaven was building your foundation. That's when God was shaping your spirit, refining your heart, sharpening your discernment. The obscurity wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And now, the time is shifting. You're stepping into a season where God will begin to bring visibility to what was once hidden, not for your fame, but for His glory. You've been refined in fire, and now you can carry what others cannot. You've endured the crushing, and now you carry the oil. You've died to self in silence, and now you will walk in authority that cannot be faked. But don't lose the posture. Don't lose the humility. What brought you here, secret obedience, must remain the anchor in every season ahead. Don't trade that sacred trust for shallow approval. Don't let visibility dilute your sensitivity. You are still a servant first. The reward is not in platforms. It's in presence. It's in the smile of God when you say yes without needing a reason. And you, chosen one, are someone who keeps saying yes. That is why you're about to experience the kind of honor that man can't manufacture, the kind that doesn't feel like hype, but like holiness, the kind that doesn't make you proud, but makes you weep, because you'll know It was never about being seen. It was about being known, and heaven knows your name. So walk quietly. Even as things rise around you, stay hidden in Him. Even when others try to bring you into their spotlight, this is your reward season. Yes, but it is also your responsibility season. You didn't earn it through noise. You received it through surrender, and that surrender still speaks. Chosen one. You didn't even realize it, but you just passed a divine test. It wasn't a test of knowledge. It wasn't about how much scripture you could quote or how loudly you could pray. This was a test of your heart, of your posture, of your willingness to obey when no one clapped, when no doors opened, and when heaven seemed silent, and you passed. This wasn't a pop quiz. It was a proving ground, a moment arranged in eternity to see if you would still choose God when the outcome didn't make sense. If you would still choose righteousness when rebellion looked easier. If you would walk away from what glittered because your soul craved what was holy, and you did. You didn't even know you were being watched. You weren't trying to impress heaven. You were just trying to stay faithful. But that's the beauty of the test. You weren't tested for performance. You were tested for purity. And now, heaven is responding. There are decisions being made in the Spirit right now because of how you responded in silence. There are doors unlocking because you didn't force them open. There are angels being assigned because you didn't quit halfway. Your faithfulness triggered a heavenly response. You may have felt like nothing was happening, but God was watching everything. The moment you didn't cuss back, the moment you didn't defend yourself, the moment you gave without being asked, the moment you closed that tab, the moment you broke it off, the moment you forgave, all of it. The weight of those decisions was not lost in the unseen realm. They were the very keys God was waiting on to release what's next. Some of the silence in your last season wasn't because you were forgotten, it was because you were being evaluated, not in judgment, but in preparation. God never promotes recklessly. He promotes the surrendered, and you've been proving, day by day, decision by decision, that you are ready. Don't second-guess the process just because you felt alone. Every test in the kingdom feels lonely. Every proving season feels like isolation. But you weren't being rejected. You were being refined. And the fire didn't come to burn you. It came to reveal what couldn't stay. Now you're lighter, sharper, quieter, maybe, but more discerning. Less visible, maybe, but more spiritually dangerous. You're not who you were when this started, and you didn't even realize it. Because transformation doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it just feels like peace. This was the test hell hoped you'd fail. It was designed to trigger your old self, to pull you into old arguments, to bait you with old cravings. But you didn't bite. You paused. You prayed. You let go. You obeyed. And in doing so, you shattered the enemy's predictions. Hell thought it knew your pattern, but obedience confused the system. And now, everything is shifting. Because God doesn't allow anyone to pass a test without revealing the promotion. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow, but it will come, and when it does, you won't have to make noise about it. Your peace will be proof. Your presence will carry the evidence. The world rewards results, but heaven rewards faithfulness. And what you just passed wasn't for a moment. It was for a mantle. We read in the book of Psalm, chapter 26. Verse 2, Test me, Lord, and try me. Examine my heart and my mind. You lived that verse. Whether you knew it or not, you walked through it line by line, and you came out with integrity still intact. Even when compromise was convenient, that matters. That has weight in heaven. Chosen one. This is a pivot point. Everything after this will flow differently. You've been proven. You've been approved. And now, your hands are being prepared to hold what's next. So mark this moment. Don't scroll past it like it's just another word. This is not a coincidence. This is a divine checkpoint, a turning point disguised in calm. The breakthrough isn't coming with thunder, it's coming with strategy. Quiet, specific, supernatural strategy. Now, declare it for yourself. Comment, I passed it. Say it as a witness to your own journey. Say it as a decree in the Spirit. Say it because the enemy needs to hear it. And your soul needs to believe it. Not out of pride, but out of prophetic recognition. This wasn't easy, but it was necessary, and you endured. Yes, you passed the test. Chosen one. Something is happening in the Spirit right now. You can feel it. Can't you? It's subtle, but undeniable. The air around you is different. You're not just healing, you're hearing. You're not just moving on, you're moving forward. And it's not by accident. God is speaking again, not through thunder, not through fire, but through stillness, through clarity, through divine whispers that are louder than noise. You've passed the test. The silence has lifted, and now God is beginning to whisper instructions, not just encouragement strategy, the kind of clarity that only comes after obedience, the kind that doesn't shout over chaos, but instead cuts through it like a sword. You're not just being comforted, you're being commissioned. What you sense right now is the beginning of direction. The Lord is downloading specifics, next steps, new places, divine timelines. Your spirit is beginning to receive what your soul doesn't fully understand yet. But don't dismiss the whisper just because it doesn't look like what you expected. When God begins to speak after a test, He speaks with purpose. He doesn't waste words. He reveals plans. In the past, you prayed for breakthrough. Now, you're receiving blueprint, and that means your posture must shift. This is no longer a season of survival. This is a season of instruction. You cannot move like before. You cannot plan like before. You must be still enough to hear, quiet enough to discern, bold enough to obey, and wise enough to wait. Because the Lord is not giving vague suggestions, He's releasing kingdom orders. In the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 27, we are reminded of this beautiful truth. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. This is you now. You're in the following phase. You've obeyed without seeing. You've trusted without clarity. And now He's revealing the path, one instruction at a time. Not the whole road, just the next step. Why? Because true alignment requires trust, not control. And make no mistake, this new instruction will stretch you. It may not be loud, but it will be clear. It may not come with full explanation, but it will come with peace. That internal shift you're feeling right now, that's confirmation. That recurring thought that keeps visiting you in prayer, that's God leaning in. That unease with what used to feel normal, That's the nudge that you're being called out deeper. Don't ignore it. Don't overthink it. Don't run it through the filters of logic or fear. You've graduated from needing to see fruit before you move. Now, God is trusting you with seed. Obedience to this next instruction may not yield immediate results, but it will root your destiny in solid ground. This is not the time to delay. It's not the time to second guess. The door God is unlocking now will require movement while it's open. You can't wait until you feel ready. Readiness comes after obedience, not before. When He says move, move. When He says speak, speak. When He says rest, rest. Chosen one. The next thing God does in your life will not come by force. It will come by instruction. And here's what you need to remember. Instruction is protection. What He tells you to do isn't just about direction, it's about defense. He's guiding you away from unseen snares. He's rerouting you around pits you didn't know were ahead. What looks like a delay is often divine redirection. Trust the whisper. It knows what your eyes can't see. You are in a holy moment of navigation, and now is the time to tune your ear, still your spirit, and obey without delay. If this word is confirming what your spirit has already sensed, don't let it stay between you and your screen. Like this message so it can reach others who are one instruction away from clarity. Share it with someone who needs to recognize that stillness doesn't mean silence, it means strategy. And subscribe if you haven't already, so these prophetic moments find you exactly when you need them. And if this word is doing more than stirring your heart, if it's realigning your next step, then consider sowing into it. Not because God needs money, but because obedience opens flow. When you sow into the voice that fed your spirit, you activate spiritual agreement. Don't give under pressure. Give under obedience. Give because you recognize this wasn't information. This was instruction. He's speaking. Are you still enough to listen? This is the hour to move with precision. No more guessing. No more hoping something clicks. Heaven is whispering again. The cloud is lifting. The wind is changing. The fire has burned away the fog. And now, direction is being released. Follow the whisper. Chosen one. Your obedience did more than shift your season. It shifted your bloodline. There are moments in life where a single decision becomes a divine pivot, where your yes doesn't just free you, it reverberates backward and forward across generations. That's the kind of obedience you've just stepped into. You didn't just say no to sin. You said no to every generational curse that tried to make a home in your life. You said, "It stops here." No. And heaven heard it. You may not have seen chains break with your physical eyes, but in the spirit, something ancient crumbled. The patterns that were normal in your family, the cycles of emotional dysfunction, spiritual apathy, addiction, resentment, idolatry just hit a divine firewall. You didn't need to shout. You didn't need a crowd. Your surrender became the sword. And with one unseen decision, you drove a line in the sand that darkness cannot cross. What you broke off your life was never meant to be yours. It was passed down, transferred, delivered through wounded parenting, unrepented rebellion, or traumatic legacy. But now it ends, because obedience is stronger than inheritance, and your yes just rewrote the script. You are the interruption in your family's bloodline. You are the one who said, "No more. No more generational silence. No more cycles of compromise. No more pretending everything's okay, while spirits of fear rule quietly under the surface. You didn't just get saved. You got serious. And the moment you got serious, the atmosphere began to shift. That's why it's felt heavy. Why your journey has looked lonelier than others. Why you've carried burdens that didn't start with you, but had to end with you. God chose you to bear what others ignored. Not because you were strong, but because you were willing. And He knew that willingness would birth a legacy of freedom. Some things don't pass until someone breaks them. And you, chosen one, were the breaker. You didn't ask for the battle, but you were born for it. And God has trusted you to stand in the gap between what was and what will never be again. You're not just living for yourself anymore. You are standing in the place where history bends, where spiritual contracts are shattered, where familiar spirits lose their grip. And now, everything is different. You may not feel the full weight of the shift yet, but you soon will. Your mind is clearing. Your choices are aligning. The peace you carry now isn't light, it's loaded. It holds weight in the spirit. Your words are different. Your authority is different. You don't sound like where you came from anymore, and that's exactly how it should be. There's a cost to being the first. The first to surrender. The first to stop hiding. The first to say, I won't pass this to my children. And yes, that cost is real. You've cried for things others never even had to fight. You've fasted for things they didn't even care about. You've wrestled in prayer while they slept in comfort. But heaven saw it, and heaven recorded it. You've become the bloodline's intercessor, the one who stood in the middle and said, not on my watch. The one who broke ties with dysfunction. The one who renounced the false idols. The one who lifted holy hands where curses once ruled. And now, God is not just blessing you, He's shifting your entire legacy. We see this pattern in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 1, verse 6. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. That verse is more than repentance. It's identification. It's saying, what they did, God, I bring it before you, but let it end with me. That's what you've done. That's what your obedience has declared. And now, the spiritual atmosphere over your family has shifted. The enemy lost legal access, not just to you, but to everyone connected to your obedience. Your children, your nieces and nephews, even the generations not yet born. You've become the break in the pattern, the righteous branch that grows in a different direction. This is why you can't go back, not just for your sake, but for theirs. The way you pray now teaches them how to war. The way you live now plants seeds they will harvest later. Your deliverance is their inheritance. Your clarity becomes their covering. Your fire becomes their foundation. And when it feels heavy again, and it will remember this, you're not carrying chains anymore. You're carrying the keys. What others called strange, heaven called surrendered. What they mocked, God marked. And now, the generational tide has turned because you obeyed. Your family's story will read differently. Chosen one. Something is happening in the heavens even now, something most people cannot see. But your spirit can feel. The shift is no longer coming. It's here. And with it comes movement. But not just human movement, angelic movement. There are times in your walk with God when He sends encouragement, times when He sends instruction, and times like this when He sends assistance, not because you're weak, Not because you begged, but because heaven always responds to obedience with reinforcement. Right now, there is angelic activity surrounding your life. Assignments are being carried out in silence. You're not alone in what you're facing. You've never been. But now, the veil is thinner. Your obedience has summoned divine response. Angels have been dispatched. Not generic angels, not random messengers, but those specifically assigned to your call. Angels that move in accordance with the weight of your surrender. Angels that war, protect, deliver, and guide. You didn't ask for them. You didn't even see them coming. But your yes gave heaven legal ground to send what hell cannot stop. That's why the atmosphere feels different. That's why your sleep has changed. That's why there's a strange peace in your room at night. Even in the midst of pressure, the enemy has noticed it too. He recognizes the shift. He hears the marching. He feels the protection that now surrounds you. And he knows the chosen one is not alone anymore. You didn't gain favor through striving, you gained backup through surrender. Scripture makes it clear in the book of Psalm, chapter 34, verse 7. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. That's you, the one who feared the Lord, even when it cost you relationships, comfort, certainty, the one who obeyed when it was lonely. And now, your reverence has drawn reinforcement. The kind of reinforcement that doesn't always feel like fire, but shows up in perfect timing. Precise, peace, and protection from attacks that never even reached you. There have been assignments against you that were cancelled without your knowledge. Car accidents avoided. Diseases blocked. Emotional breakdowns softened. Do you think that was luck? No. That was the shield of heaven, drawn around you the moment you stepped into divine alignment. But hear this clearly. Angelic movement isn't only for protection, it's for positioning. Some angels are not just guarding you, they're preparing things for you, creating divine intersections, shifting schedules, arranging introductions, canceling delays. Heaven is orchestrating things now that your feet haven't even touched yet. This is what happens when a chosen one obeys God, releases divine resources in perfect synchronization with your spiritual timeline. Not ahead of schedule, not too late, but precisely on time. That door that's about to open, that conversation that's going to shift your trajectory, that opportunity that keeps coming back around. But now with clarity, that's angelic orchestration. Your role was obedience. Their role is movement, and both are in alignment now. It's important that you don't fall into passivity now. Just because heaven is moving doesn't mean you stop posturing yourself. This is a moment for stillness, but also for sharpness. Discern what's opening. Stay sensitive to divine nudges. You may feel led to reach out to someone random. That may be heaven. You may be urged to wait when it seems like the perfect time to act. That may be heaven too. Angels don't come to validate your desires. They come to fulfill God's will through your life. Stay yielded. Stay listening. And trust that what's moving around you is working for you, not against you. There is order being restored now. Things you tried to organize in your own strength are finally falling into place, not because you fought harder, but because you surrendered more. This is the flow of divine strategy. When you let go, heaven steps in. And when heaven steps in, angels move in silence, but shift everything. You've entered the realm of supernatural covering. You're not just protected, you're prioritized. So, mark this moment. Don't let the quiet fool you. There's activity all around. What you sowed in tears is being answered with divine dispatch. What you laid down in surrender has opened a gate in the spirit. And now, chosen one, seal your agreement with what's being released. Align with the movement. Comment: 441. It's not just a number, it's a prophetic signal. A declaration that you recognize something is happening in the spirit that cannot be explained in the flesh. 4 for divine order. 4 again for angelic movement. 1 for unity with God's will. Comment it in faith. Write it like you're joining the ranks of heaven, because you are. This is your confirmation. The angels are moving. Chosen one. Heaven has placed its spotlight on you, not because you sought it, not because you asked for attention, but because your obedience has positioned you for divine visibility. This is not about recognition from people. This is about being recognized in the spirit. The light of God is resting on you now, not to expose, but to affirm, not to impress the crowd, but to signal to heaven and hell alike. This one belongs to the King. You've walked through seasons of silence. You've endured invisibility. You've served in the shadows while others celebrated in the light. And you didn't complain. You didn't rush the process. You didn't demand a stage. You let God do it His way. And now, because you were faithful in obscurity, heaven is bringing you into alignment with visibility. But this visibility is different. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's not self-promoting. It's holy. It's weighty. It's the kind of visibility that makes darkness nervous, not because of what you wear, but because of what you carry. This is the visibility that breaks atmospheres when you walk into a room, the type that causes people to stop and wonder, what is it about them? The answer? You've been with God. The glory that's resting on you is not man-made. You didn't buy it, brand it, or earn it through effort. It's the result of surrender. And heaven trusts you with it not to elevate your name, but to reflect His. You are now a mirror, carrying light into places that have only known darkness. We read in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 16, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." That's why the warfare increased before this moment. Hell always fights the ones God is about to reveal, not because it fears your platform, but because it fears your purity. Darkness doesn't mind a noisy Christian. It trembles before a clean one. And you, chosen one, have allowed the Lord to purify your heart in private, and now He is releasing your voice in purpose. The spotlight is not the reward, it is the assignment. You're not being seen for attention. You're being seen for function. You are a torch in the hand of God, meant to light up what's been hidden. And in doing so, you will draw others not to yourself, but to the truth, to repentance, to restoration, to clarity. This is why your presence will become a problem for the spiritually dormant. You will agitate what's been asleep. You will stir what's been stagnant. You will disrupt what's been tolerated. Not because you're trying to, but because the light you carry demands response. Light doesn't ask permission. It simply shines. This new level of spiritual visibility will come with tension. Some will misunderstand you. Some will question your sudden rise. But don't waste time explaining the favor of God. Let the fruit speak. Let the fire you carry answer their suspicion. When God lifts you, your testimony becomes undeniable. It's happening already. You've noticed people watching you differently, responding to your words with weight, asking questions they never asked before. You've felt the eyes, not just natural eyes, but spiritual ones. The enemy has been watching, so has heaven. And now, both know what's coming. You are a light post in a generation of fog. You are clarity in a culture of confusion. And you didn't choose this. You were chosen for it. But be warned, visibility is not the time to loosen your disciplines. This is when the enemy will try subtle tactics, ego, flattery, comparison, distraction. Because if he can't stop you from shining, he'll try to contaminate the source of your light. Guard your oil. Guard your gaze. Stay low. Even as God lifts you high. This is not your moment to become something. This is your moment to reveal what God already deposited in you long ago. There are things inside you that the world has yet to see. Words you haven't spoken. Prayers you haven't prayed. Assignments you haven't fully stepped into. And now, with the spotlight, comes the unlocking. The atmosphere around you is shifting because heaven is announcing, "This one carries what I need in the earth." No, you don't need validation from platforms. You've been validated by fire. You don't need acceptance from crowds. You've been accepted by the one who matters. You don't need affirmation from man. You are carrying the weight of divine approval. Chosen one. The light on you is not accidental. It's intentional. It's strategic. And it will cost you everything you once held dear, but it will give you what no one can take. Now walk carefully. Speak slowly. Move intentionally. You're not just seen, you're sent. Chosen one. The oil on your life is multiplying. You've been faithful with the little. You've poured when it felt like you had nothing left. You've kept showing up. Even when your hands were empty and your heart was worn thin, you've obeyed while exhausted. And now, heaven is responding with increase, not for your comfort, but for your assignment. There is oil coming to your life, fresh, holy, undeniable, not natural oil, not symbolic hype, but the tangible anointing that empowers, strengthens, and multiplies. This is not the oil of yesterday. This is not recycled fire. This is the portion reserved for those who didn't give up when nothing made sense, for those who trusted even when the heavens were silent. You didn't know it, but your private sacrifice created space for divine overflow. You were the widow with the last jar. You poured, you obeyed, and now the increase is beginning, quietly, consistently, supernaturally. The oil is multiplying because of your stewardship. God does not multiply waste. He multiplies faithfulness. And you, chosen one, have been faithful over what didn't look like much. You've been a good steward over your emotions, your time, your words, your purity, your energy. You've chosen not to leak oil by running ahead of God. You've chosen not to waste oil on what He never assigned. And because of that, the jar is expanding. You're not being rewarded for striving, you're being trusted with more because of how you carried the little. There is a principle in the kingdom: what you don't protect, you disqualify. And you've protected your oil. You've guarded your obedience. You've walked carefully when no one was watching. And now, God is increasing the weight you carry. Not the burden, but the capacity. What's coming next will require more. More grace, more clarity, more anointing, and heaven has already begun supplying it. You're not being overwhelmed, you're being filled, not with noise or information, but with divine presence, the kind of presence that teaches, the kind that empowers, the kind that causes you to walk into rooms and change atmospheres without saying a word. Chosen one. The oil is for your calling, but it flows because of your crushing. Yes, the crushing, the pain, the pressing, the nights you thought would never end, the seasons where you lost what you thought you couldn't live without, the disappointments that emptied you. It was all part of the oiling process. God does not anoint the untouched. He anoints the broken. And you, beloved, have been broken well. Now you carry more than just knowledge. You carry weight. You don't speak from theory. You speak from fire. You've learned to minister not from hype, but from healing. And that's why the oil is multiplying. God is trusting you to carry more, not to build your image, but to advance His purpose. The oil is not for status, it's for service. This is why the increase feels different. It's not coming with glitter, it's coming with gravity. It's not showing up as applause, it's showing up as open doors that you didn't knock on, invitations you didn't chase, assignments you didn't manufacture. But every one of them will require the oil you carry, and more. So protect the flow. You're not like everyone else. You can't move like everyone else. You can't give your attention to what drains your jar. You can't keep conversations that thin your oil. The greater the assignment, the tighter the boundaries. The more oil you carry, the more discipline you'll need. This isn't about fear. It's about stewardship. The prophet Elisha witnessed this same principle. When the widow obeyed and poured out the oil, what looked like lack became abundance. Her oil multiplied not because she begged for it, but because she obeyed. You are living that pattern now. We read in the second book of Kings, chapter 4, verse 6, when all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. What does that mean for you? The oil didn't stop because God ran out. It stopped because the vessels ran out. So make room. Make room in your spirit. Make room in your schedule. Make room in your mind. Prepare your capacity for what God wants to pour. Don't ask for more oil if you're not ready to protect it. Don't expect fresh flow if you're still clinging to old leaks. This next release is reserved for those who are ready to carry responsibility with reverence. You've been found ready. And now the oil is multiplying, not to validate you, but to empower you. Not to make you impressive, but impactful. Not to help you blend in, but to help you break through. This is not overflow for show. This is oil for war. Carry it carefully. Chosen one. This is not the time to relax. This is the time to prepare for glory. You've come through crushing. You've passed the test. You've obeyed when no one was watching. And now, you're standing on the edge of elevation. But hear this clearly. Elevation doesn't just bring exposure, it brings pressure. Favor attracts weight. Increase invites resistance. Glory reveals the hidden, magnifies the assignment, and draws out the real in everything and everyone around you. You're not stepping into a season of ease, you're stepping into a season of purpose. God is not lifting you to make you impressive. He's positioning you to be impactful. You're not rising for status. You're rising to become a vessel. The kind that carries fire, the kind that walks in authority, the kind that confronts atmospheres and doesn't blink. But glory demands preparation. If you carry glory without preparation, it will crush you. If you wear promotion without character, it will burn you. That's why God has been quiet lately, not because he left, but because he's been building you in silence, not for the crowd, but for the weight of purpose, the weight of intercession, the weight of glory. This next level won't come with a warning, it will come with a release. Sudden opportunities, accelerated connections, divine setups that shift everything in a day. And when it comes, you must be ready. Ready to stand, not wobble. Ready to respond, not panits. Ready to carry, not collapse. That's why the warfare intensified recently. It wasn't punishment, it was preconditioning. Resistance has built your endurance. Delay has sharpened your discernment. Rejection has trained your response. Now, your roots are deep, and when the wind of glory blows, you won't topple, you'll stand and carry. We see this divine tension in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay, to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. You carry something heavenly inside something human. That's why you feel the pressure. That's why obedience costs you more than it seems to cost others. You're not carrying opinions, you're carrying treasure. You're not called to blend in, you're marked to be set apart. Glory isn't just brightness, it's weight. It changes how you move. It forces you to say no to things others freely say yes to. It reshapes your relationships. It reorders your pace. It pulls you into a posture of reverence. And now that the glory is drawing near, so must your posture shift again. Chosen one, this is your moment to prepare. Cut off the noise. Silence the unnecessary. Protect your stillness. This is not the time for shallow distractions or rushed decisions. Heaven is aligning you for something weighty. And that weight is not punishment, it's honor. It means God trusts you with what others misused. But be warned, with glory comes visibility. And with visibility comes temptation. The enemy will try again, but not through fear, through ego. He'll whisper, "You've earned this." He'll tempt you to believe the fruit is yours, not the roots. Don't fall for it. You're not here by hustle. You're here by grace. Stay low. Stay anchored. Stay worshipping. This is also when voices around you may shift. People who once walked with you may no longer understand you. Don't be offended. Be discerning. Elevation doesn't always come with celebration. Sometimes it comes with separation. God is not punishing you by isolating you. He's protecting what you carry. If this word is resonating deeply with your spirit, don't scroll away in silence. Like this message as a sign that you feel the weight of what's coming. Share it with someone who's standing in the same spiritual tension, someone who knows they're on the edge of something holy. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because what God is speaking now, He will soon confirm again, and you don't want to miss it. And if this word didn't just speak to you, but read you, then you know what this moment requires. Sow into it, not to buy favor, but to seal your alignment. Give not from pressure, but from obedience. A seed is a signature in the Spirit. It says, God, I'm not just receiving this, I'm agreeing with it. Then, comment below, my posture is ready. Then, say it not to be seen, but to be aligned. Because in the kingdom, glory doesn't rest on the gifted, it rests on the surrendered. Let this be your prophetic act. Heaven sees the one who is postured before it pours. Get ready. Chosen one, the glory is near. Your posture determines your portion, and your surrender determines how long you'll carry what others keep dropping. You were born for this. Chosen one. What you're walking into next is not just fulfillment, it's responsibility. This is the weight few talk about. The moment when the prayer becomes real, when the vision steps out of your imagination and walks into your life, when the door opens not just a little but wide enough to make you tremble, and in that trembling, you realize, this is what I prayed for, and this is what I must now carry. You're entering the realm of answered prayer. But make no mistake, every answered prayer is also an assignment. Every breakthrough comes with stewardship. Every promise fulfilled comes with territory to occupy, protect, and govern. This is not the time to get comfortable. This is the time to step into holy responsibility. God didn't answer your cry to give you comfort. He answered it to give you influence. Not the kind the world chases. Not flashy. Not superficial. But influence in the spirit. Authority that shifts things. Voice that cuts through fog. Presence that disrupts darkness. Heaven is positioning you to take ground, not just to live better, but to lead others out. And that will require maturity, because what's coming is holy, and what's holy cannot be handled casually. You can't treat your next season like your last. You can't bring old habits into new wine. You must upgrade your posture, stretch your understanding, deepen your prayer life, guard your time, protect your environment. This isn't elevation just for your sake, it's elevation for those you've been called to carry. God is placing influence in your hands, but only because you first placed your life in His. He trusts you now. That's the shift. You've proven that you won't use the blessing to forget the one who gave it. You've demonstrated that His presence matters more than His provision, and because of that, the doors are opening. But you're not just walking through them as a receiver, you're walking through them as a steward. There are people waiting on the other side of your obedience, souls tied to your surrender. You may never know their names, but your decision to walk with God fully will become their open heaven. You carry more than oil. Now you carry access. You've been given keys in the Spirit. Nutfaigu, for kingdom work. We find in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 8, See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. But understand this, an open door still requires your willingness to walk through it. It doesn't walk for you. It invites, it requires faith, and it demands discernment. Not every opportunity is yours. Not every platform is assigned. You must walk with such clarity that you know when to enter and when to pass by. That level of wisdom only comes from proximity to God, not strategy, not performance, not hype. This next realm is not for the impulsive, it's for the obedient. You've been entrusted with something precious, and now you must walk like it, talk like it, think like it. This is the moment when private devotion becomes public weight. You've been tested in silence so that your voice will carry fire in public. Not performance, presence. Not charisma, conviction. Not perfection, but anointing. Don't let the applause distract you. Don't let success seduce you. What God is giving you now is not a reward, it's a tool. Use it well. Use it to heal, not to impress. Use it to build altars, not platforms. Use it to host glory, not to gather followers. The more God gives, the more accountable you become, and the more holy the gift, the more holy the life required to carry it. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to defend your calling. Let the fruit do the talking. Let your decisions reflect what you carry. When you walk with purpose, your steps will reveal what your lips never need to say. And those who doubted you will soon say, "Surely the Lord is with them." Chosen one. The weight you feel now is not fear, it's reverence. You've walked out of survival and into assignment. You're not hustling to survive anymore. You're obeying to fulfill. You're not proving yourself. You're preparing to carry others. That's why God has taken so long. That's why the refining hurt so much. You weren't being delayed. You were being built. And now that you're ready, heaven isn't holding back. But don't confuse motion for permission. Just because it's moving doesn't mean it's time. Still listen. Still lean in. Stay yielded. That's how you stay safe. The greatest threat to your next season is forgetting who got you here, and forgetting why He chose you in the first place. So now, walk with weight. Lead with love. Live with clarity. Because this is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your responsibility. Chosen one. Tonight was not just a moment, it was a marking. Heaven did not just smile because you obeyed it, smiled because something shifted permanently. You said yes, and the spiritual realm responded, not with fireworks, but with order, with alignment, with the kind of movement that changes everything silently, like roots growing deeper in the dark. You will never be the same again. The version of you that hesitated, second-guessed, negotiated with fear, that version no longer holds the pen. The story is no longer driven by self-preservation. It is now moved by divine instruction. Your surrender has altered your posture. And now, because your posture has changed, so will your path. You're not walking forward anymore as someone hoping to be accepted. You're walking forward as someone already chosen. You are not seeking proof that God sees you. Your obedience was the proof that you see Him. And that shift changes everything. The ones who are truly chosen don't seek thrones. They kneel at altars. They don't chase platforms. They carry burdens. They don't beg to be used. They burn quietly in surrender until God says, "Now." And when He says now, the earth cannot stop what heaven has released. You didn't stumble here by coincidence. This wasn't algorithmic. This wasn't timing. This wasn't chance. It was orchestration. It was heaven's hand guiding your feet into this word at the exact moment your spirit was ready to receive it. The confirmation wasn't on the outside. It was what leapt inside your soul the moment the truth hit you. And now, your obedience has declared war. Not war against people, but war against darkness, against cycles, against every lie that ever told you you weren't enough, against every spirit that tried to suffocate your voice and silence your calling. Obedience is not quiet. It roars in the spirit. It tears down strongholds. It disarms principalities. It dethrones idols. That's what you did. And heaven didn't just observe. It responded. Angels were deployed. Destiny was rerouted. Chains that followed your family for generations shattered quietly because of your yes. And the fruit of that decision will outlive you. You are not just free. You've become the freedom someone else will walk in. This is how legacy begins. Not with applause, with obedience. Not with lightning, with surrender. Not with fame, with fire. The kind of fire that doesn't always make headlines, but always makes heaven move. You have become the kind of person hell regrets messing with, because you've proven that your love is not circumstantial. Your yes is not fragile. You can't be bribed by comfort or manipulated by delay. You're not here for stage time. You're here for kingdom time. And you've stepped into it. From this night forward, your relationship with obedience will define your future more than any opportunity ever could. You'll be guided by whispers, not waves, directed by conviction, not crowds. And the weight of what you carry will not crush you, it will confirm you. It is written in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 18, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. And that's what's next. Not just purpose, glory revealed through you. Glory, not just around you, but inside you. Glory, not given for spotlight, but for impact. And when people ask what changed, how you got here, why doors began to open, why your voice started shaking rooms, you'll point back to tonight, to this moment, to this quiet yes that unlocked what effort never could. You didn't obey for a reward, but you will be rewarded. Not always in ways the world claps for, but in ways heaven recognizes. In peace that doesn't make sense. In authority that breaks yokes. In favor that opens doors you never knocked on. In fruit that grows long after you're gone. You are now walking in the flow of fulfillment. Not hype, not pressure, not striving, alignment. The oil on your life will increase, not because you chase it, but because you protect it. You will speak differently, walk differently, love differently. You will see things others overlook, because obedience sharpens discernment. And when the world looks at you and says, something about them feels different, you will know why. Because God smiled, because you finally obeyed, and because everything changes after that. So keep walking, even when it's quiet. Keep trusting, even when it's costly, because from this night forward, you are not just carrying a promise, you are carrying proof. Proof that obedience still shifts destinies. Chosen one. If this word found you, don't let it leave you the same. You didn't just scroll into this. You were drawn here. Your spirit recognized something your eyes hadn't fully seen yet. And now that you've received, it's time to respond. Like this message. Not out of habit, but as a prophetic signal. A way of saying, I receive the weight of this word. Every click becomes an agreement. Every like becomes a signal to heaven. This word was mine. Share it with someone who's standing on the edge of obedience. Someone who's been wrestling in silence, waiting for a sign. Let your share be the lifeline. Let your obedience spark theirs. Comment your confirmation. Maybe it's a number. Maybe it's a name. Maybe it's just, this was for me. Let the thread below become a river of testimonies, cries, and covenant moments. You're not alone. Someone else is walking through the same fire, and your words might become their light. Subscribe if you haven't already. Not to follow a voice, but to stay connected to the sound heaven is releasing through this space. There are more words coming, more alignment, more clarity. Don't miss the next whisper. And if this message didn't just bless you, but broke something open in you, sow into it. Not because you were pressured, but because you recognized the soil, because you felt the fire, because something inside you whispered, "Seal this moment." Your seed isn't payment, it's agreement. It says, "God, I'm walking through the door. You open tonight. Nah, you were chosen to hear this. Now move like it." Heaven smiled. You obeyed. And now, the next chapter begins.